Okay, so what you're looking at here, it isn't just a tool for making mazes. No, it's the starting point for a totally radical new kind of artificial intelligence. And the story of how you get from one to the other is, well, it's pretty wild.
So at first glance, this just looks like a simple 3D maze generator. It's an add-on for Blender, the popular animation software. It's made by a company called Dart Meadow, and it pretty much does what it says on the tin. It makes mazes.
But this is where things get really interesting. How does this simple little 3D tool connect to the future of AI? Well, the answer takes us way beyond 3D modeling and deep into a completely new way of thinking about logic itself.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. We're going to start with the tool itself, then we'll peel back the layers and look at its core algorithm. From there, we'll see how it connects to a much bigger philosophical system, meet the AI that it powers, and then finally we'll really get into why this approach is just so different from anything you've probably ever seen before.
So, to really get this whole system, you have to understand where it came from. Because this isn't your typical software that was born in some sterile corporate lab. Nope, its origin story is everything.
The whole project was developed by a guy named Justin Venable, and his background is the key here. The entire system is basically what happens when two worlds collide. You've got the cold, hard precision of mathematics on one side, and the absolute boundless creativity of digital art on the other.
And if you actually dig into the add-on's description, you start to see some weird clues. It doesn't just make mazes, it solves them. And it uses these strange terms like algebraic byproduct and iterative pruning. I mean, those are not standard programming terms, and they're hinting at what's really going on here. The solution isn't something you find, it's what's left over after you get rid of everything else.
So how does this thing actually work? The principle behind the code is what makes this whole thing so unique.
It all starts right here, with this formula. Now, I know it looks a little complex, but the idea behind it is actually surprisingly elegant, almost intuitive.
See, instead of searching for the right path, like most maze algorithms do, this one finds the path by just getting rid of all the wrong ones. The solution isn't found, it's revealed. It's the byproduct that's left over after you've pruned away all the dead ends.
The best way to picture it, it's like two vines growing to fill a box. They start on opposite sides, and they spread out, sprouting all these random branches to fill up the space. But they have to follow one critical rule. They can never touch. And that gap they leave between them, that one single winding corridor, that's the solution to the maze. The path is created purely by the act of avoidance. And that idea is the perfect illustration for the next step. Because the maze isn't the final product. Oh no, it's just the foundation for something much, much bigger.
That whole maze-building logic, that's just the root of a brand new system of thinking called the lead-edge ash tree reflex, or LEATR. And this isn't just a program anymore, it's an entire framework for thinking. And the ambition here is huge. The leader system tries to classify basically everything in the universe according to three core principles: a foundation, a reflex, and a formation. It's a whole new logical lens to look at reality through.
And what just blows my mind is the scale of this thing. The maze is just step one out of 25 natural orders of operation. And look what comes next. It goes from an abstract idea, like a puzzle, and then it just keeps expanding until it includes things like photosynthesis and all 5 human senses.
And all this framework and logic, it was built for one thing, an AI named Autumn.
Autumn is the AI built completely on the principles of the ash tree reflex system. And this thing you're looking at, the ash canvas, that's the interface you use to talk to it. This is the whole vision, made real.
So, how does an AI like this think? Well, instead of a normal, linear, step-by-step process, it uses something called bidirectional seeping. Information kind of seeps in from both ends of a problem at the same time, using that exact same core logic that keeps the two maze walls from ever touching. And the result is this inherently balanced analysis.
Okay, I know this diagram looks like a lot, but stick with me. It basically shows you the whole process. A user prompt goes in, it gets processed through all those LEATR behavioral mechanics we've been talking about, and it spits out a result without doing any traditional brute force calculation.
So you might be asking yourself, what's the big deal? Why go to all this trouble to build a whole new kind of logic from the ground up?
And this quote, right from the system's own documentation, just nails it.
The goal is to build an AI that doesn't compute an answer, it reflexively finds one. It's almost like building an instinct.
What we're looking at is a massive shift in how we approach AI. You're moving away from the brute force of pure computational power, away from linear logic, and you're moving towards a system that's inspired by how nature finds solutions, through growth, adaptation, and just gracefully getting rid of what doesn't work.
When you boil it all down, the entire system, from that simple maze tool all the way up to the Autumn AI, it's all one big experiment, driven by a single question. Can we create an intelligence that actually thinks differently, right down to its very core?
And that leaves us with one last, pretty provocative thought to chew on. If we manage to build an intelligence that finds answers not through calculation, but through something that feels a lot more like instinct, what kind of intelligence have we actually created? Does it think more like us?